We, of course, are going to talk about the Mulan box office lies. That's right, the lies that Yahoo has been spouting. And all I can say is, I told you so. Yahoo had posted about a week or so ago about how apparently, because of an analytics firm, they were able to confirm that the film had made roughly $261 million in the first 12 days of its release on Disney+. Now, not only did this number seem very suspicious because it was way too high, it was too damn high, as the former head of the rent is too damn high party used to say. And that was one problem with it, was that it just seemed like a little bit too much money for the first time a film had tried to charge $30 behind a paywall on Disney and pretty much any streaming platform for that matter, where you have to pay money up front and then pay more in addition. So it already was a little too off for that very reason. Not to mention, having that happen in 12 days just seemed a little bit too much out of reach, seeing that even at the worldwide box office, that would seem like a pretty hard feat to have, even in a very good year, even with a very good and strong release. And so there were already those issues with it. Made it even worse, the fact that Yahoo totally read the numbers wrong almost willingly. And I pointed this out in the video where I initially made the point about how they kept bringing up this stupid percentage, and yet they never mentioned what that percentage was based on. They never gave the actual raw numbers of what that percentage was based on. So basically, this analytics firm just pulled a percentage out of thin air and then tried to make assumptions based off of that. So, of course, Yahoo, and I remember calling this at the time, saying Yahoo is not really known for being a reliable source for anything. It's just become so, just in general, it's become very crazy political, very far left in a lot of the news stories that it does. But then I never go to Yahoo Finance for my financial information either. And guess what? This is proof positive of that. And if anyone who's watching this right now or watches in the future, has ever used Yahoo Finance for any of your financial information, hopefully this is all you need to know, yeah, you know what, I'm probably not going to do that anymore, because, man, they have no idea what they're talking about. Again, even a layman like me, even someone that's not really involved in the financial sphere, who knows very little other than just basic mathematics. It's interesting how I'm known as the math guy, but then all I'm really doing is trying to take basic math and I'm trying to put it all together and making sense to me and hopefully making sense to other people. But even I was able to look at that and say, wait a minute, how are you getting this random percentage if you don't have any numbers to actually compare it to? The whole reason, if you have 1,000 people out of 1 million people, guess what? You can get a percentage from that because you have those numbers. I couldn't just say, oh yeah, 20% of people. Of what people? Of what total? Of what number are you even speaking of? They didn't actually have that. So it was totally insane for them to even come up with that in the first place. So IGN and many other places have, of course, covered the fact that Yahoo was incredibly wrong, and that instead of Mulan getting $261 million in the first 12 days from Disney Plus alone, that it might most likely made instead between $60 and $90 million. And here's the thing. That is also still really hard to prove, because that's also assuming that certain numbers are correct, certain numbers that we actually don't even have. All that Disney has released is what their total worldwide numbers look like, but that does not tell us how many of those subscribers are in the United States, and it also does not tell us how many of those subscribers actually bought the movie. Now, IGN and others have used the fact that we have three, third quarter filings, and that based on those third quarter filings, that it looks like it was around 10% or so of users who had utilized and had accessed and had downloaded or viewed in some way Mulan in the first week or so. And so obviously that's a little bit better. There's a little bit more meat there for us to grab onto. But even then, it's still something that is not giving full context, because we don't know what it's 10% of, which is why even IGN and others are saying it's between 60 and 90 million. But even those numbers are hard to really pinpoint and hard to really believe in, because it could be less than 60 million. It could be even more than 90 million. I doubt it's more than 90. But honestly, I think it's probably going to be around 60, maybe even less than 60 million. Because think about 60 million and think about people spending $30 a pop on that. I mean, to me, it just seems very unlikely that you have, all of those different people who would actually be getting this. If we're talking thousands, maybe tens or hundreds of thousands of people spending $30 on that I would believe. But many, many millions of Americans spending that, I don't see that really being a complete possibility there. In fact, let's go ahead and just, so 60 million. So let's go ahead and put that into the handy dandy calculator. So $60 million divided by 30 would be 2 million. So I don't believe that 2 million Americans actually bought and paid for Mulan. I could be wrong on that, but it just does not seem very likely. I would say that I have a lot more Sense and Sensibility on my side than the original Yahoo article had. Now, a huge shout out to all of my September Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Ittertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Lady T, Laura the Modern Major General Story, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Outpost Dyer, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B. Thank you very much for being my supporters over on Patreon. And to my Subscribe Star members, stand for John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, Darkstar 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888-209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nebadon G. Adams, and the K-Man. Thank you so very much for being my supporters over on Subscribestar, and a shout out to all of my supporters on both platforms. If you yourself want to get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream, please consider joining on Patreon or Subscribestar. You can also get access to exclusive giveaways, to an exclusive podcast that I do twice a month with my friend John the Flick Pig Flickinger, where we talk about just random stuff going on in the movies, our reviews, and also we take Q&A questions from everyone as well in those categories. So if you would like to have any of those things or access to them, or even the biggest of them all, to be one of my chosen of Valhalla and get a t-shirt during your first month, and also have access to be featured on the channel once a month on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, please consider checking that out in the links in the description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.